Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins. Rolling solo tonight. Ed Carball has the night off, but I am joined by a friend of the show, Natan Levy, who has a fight coming up on July 10th for LFA, LFA number 84 on UFC Fight Pass. Natan, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, I guess the first question that everybody seems to get asked these days is how has it been getting through this lockdown time? What was it like being in Vegas during this situation?
I think I made the best lemonade I could out of the lemons we got dealt with. We've been training at the park every day. I had a couple of friends who are wrestling national champions from Israel. And, I've taught them striking all the way from the fundamentals. So for me, it was great to go over all the fundamentals, the boxing fundamentals, the karate fundamentals, everything I learned over the years. Just go over it again from A to Z, everything that I know at least. And they did the same with the wrestling. So I think I really improved my wrestling. We did a ton of conditioning, lifted some weights, not much, but more, wrestling conditioning, old school Russian training, carrying each other, pushing each other really to tough spots. Because if you train alone at the house, it's great. You might be able to keep in shape, but you have to be a real psycho to put yourself through really hard training alone. So when we had each other to push, and keep each other accountable, that was great. And like I said, learned a ton from them, learned a ton again from showing them things, and teaching is learning a second time. So it was really a great experience for me. And I got a great tan.
So you had a couple wrestling buddies from Israel in Las Vegas. Do they live in Las Vegas, or did they just happen to get stuck here during the travel ban?
They came for for a championship, and one of them might be doing some MMA soon, so we'll keep it under wraps for now, but it's gonna be good.
Cool. So that had to be helpful then to have some friends in town that you could do that with. You had no issues from day one? You just started working out at the park with Syndicate MMA guys, or just your close group of fans?
At first the whole stay-at-home thing, I was training at home, jumping rope for 10-15 minutes, doing some shadow boxing. But like I said, it's not the same. If I had to, if I knew it was going to be like that for 3 months, I would have pushed myself as hard as I could. But it's really tough to be in fight shape. Being in shape, that's okay. But being in fight shape, that's very difficult to maintain. Even when you have a gym and all the heavy bags and all the equipment in the world, it's hard to be fight ready all the time. So to do that, I had my friend Brendan Manoff. He's an MMA fighter from Syndicate, and right at the start, he said, "Man, we gotta keep a schedule, because I started waking up a little late, playing some video games, then training in the afternoon more." And he told me, "No, bro, let's train every morning. So we get up early, train, not too early. We don't need to wake up at 6 a.m., but let's be up by 9." Training by 10. Let's start the day right. And then if we get power, we can even do a second workout. I would have my karate group from Israel. They would do live videos of the training. Every day someone else would run training. I did it a few times. And I would be doing morning park workout. And then evening time, I would be doing yoga or karate, on Facebook Live with my friends from back home.
How do you feel what kind of shape you're in right now? I've seen some of your Instagram stuff, and you look to be in pretty prime condition right now. How do you feel a couple weeks out from your fight?
I'm feeling great. I have no words to describe it. I feel stronger, faster, better conditioning than I ever had. This fight will be at 55. I'm planning on going back to 45, but this one was kind of like a 4 weeks notice. So I just took it at 55, and I know I'm big enough. I know I'm strong enough. And I've been, throwing around people that are higher weight classes than that. So I'm very confident right now.
So you said you got about 4 weeks notice. It took a while, and it may have been announced prior, but I just noticed your opponent is Ben Lugo, 5-3 professional, but he's also got like 15 amateur bouts. So he's by far, I believe, the most experienced fighter you've ever faced. Although he's had some wins and some losses, whereas you have you haven't faced a defeat yet. You're undefeated at heavy or at professional, and according to Tapology, you're also undefeated as an amateur. What do you know about him? I didn't get a chance to do a lot of research on him. Is he a striker, a wrestler? What do you expect from Ben Lugo?
I mostly expect striking. Is well rounded. I don't think taking him down and submitting him would be a walk in the park. And like I said, I'm very confident. I think he's well rounded, but I think I am more well rounded. I think I'm better everywhere, on the ground, on the feet, and especially with the strides I made recently in the wrestling. And if you watch my third pro fight, I had some problems in my wrestling, especially against Henry Barona from Jackson Wink. He missed weight a little bit. He was a bigger guy. He cut more weight than me, I think. And like I said, he missed weight. And I had some issues with that. And if you watch my last fight, the one after that, the fourth fight, I really invested time into my wrestling, and I think it paid dividends. It was a completely different game. And now that was a baby step. And I've made a huge stride since. I think my wrestling is on a completely different level than it was last year. Unfortunately, I didn't get to showcase the in-betweens because I didn't fight in a year. I was supposed to fight in March, and it got canceled thanks to the coronavirus. But I think you're going to see a really new and improved Natan Levy, and it's going to be a great fight.
So coming from your your karate background stuff you talked about previously on the show, do you feel like this wrestling, because during your pro career you have yet to have a finish by knockout? You got a couple decisions, a guillotine choke, and you had an armbar at the event I was at out here at Cabazon in your debut. Do you feel like the wrestling threat is now going to open up your striking to allow maybe for some more striking finishes?
I don't think the wrestling threat as much as the confidence that I have about somebody shooting on me. I don't think Ben Lugo is going to shoot. I think we're going to stand up. And I think if I need to take him down, I can. But I also see a knockout. I see a submission. I think I can beat him anywhere, really. I don't think I'm not underestimating him. I know he's battle tested. Sometimes a guy that has 15, amateur fights and 8 pro fights, that's a lot of experience. Even though he lost a few, he's been in deep water. He's been through many situations. He's got the experience. He's not some guy who only felt victory, and then one day he gets, one day he's the nail and not the hammer, and then he breaks mentally. No, this guy has been there. He's seen it all. And I expect, to bring something new to the table he hasn't felt yet, but it is a difficult task.
Yeah, that's a lot of fights, a lot of experience to go up against. But you fought a few good opponents already, so I think you'll be ready for that. You mentioned that you had a fight scheduled initially for March. Your last fight was in June, so you're going to be at about a 13-month layoff between fights. I imagine that was frustrating for you.
Yeah, very.
Did LFA keep you in the loop? Was there constant communication with your manager and them, or was it silence and then all of a sudden you got a call?
Really, what happened is I fought June, and I was supposed to fight in September, and I hurt my neck. I had a bulging disc, so that it wasn't a long injury. It was just like 6 weeks that I had to take off. Like, I seen the doctor and he told me, listen, you can drag it out for a few years, or you can stay at home, rest for 6 weeks and get it over with. And it was a good opportunity to go on a honeymoon. So that's what I did. And I rested for 6 weeks. And, For me, resting, I trained a little bit. Like I moved around. I wasn't completely doing nothing, but nothing crazy. I was more like stretching and staying healthy. And after that was done, I was pretty much ready to go. I couldn't go the next day after I was done recovering, but 1 month, 2 months of camp, and I'm good to go. So I was supposed to fight December. A few opponents pulled out. January, opponents pulled out. March, and my plan was to go back to Israel for April for Passover that I do with my family every year. And March 20th, I had like 5 or 6 opponents pull out, and I ended up staying here because of the corona, and I've been here since.
Has it been frustrating not being able to go back to Israel and visit your family?
Yeah, because every time it was like, oh, after the fight, I'll go. I got 2 more months of camp, and then I'll win the fight and go, and have fun, be able to eat Israeli food, spend time not thinking about my next fight or anything. And and every time it got postponed. So I'm not going to fly. The fight got canceled, but it's already February. So I'm not going to fly yet because I might fight March. And it dragged out like that the whole year.
Have you, you mentioned Israeli food. Have you been able to find that in Las Vegas? Does it exist out there?
There's a few good spots. We got Jerusalem Grill, Lila, and a few good spots. But for the hummus, really, like in Israel, it's tough. Like when you're in Israel, the thing is you don't have to drive anywhere. You just go down your house and you eat like quality hummus, and all the other stuff is really good.
Did you learn anything during the lockdown? I know for me, I didn't work much for a couple months, and I took up kind of cooking around here. I mean, you kind of had to. Was there anything you picked up, whether it was gardening or cooking, or I mean, I know you have your fight stuff to keep you busy, but was there anything else that you kind of picked up during your downtime?
Yep. First of all, like I trained my ass off during the quarantine. I actually even like kind of wish I had taken a week off between quarantine and getting back to like normal, because I was even like overtrained. I was training like a maniac, but I learned a lot from it, and I was also investing a lot of time in learning Japanese, something I've been doing for a couple of years. And I had time. I couldn't meet like a teacher or anything, but I had a lot of time to learn online and finish some backlog of video games that I needed to finish.
I think we all did that a little bit. Was it so getting back to it, you've had these fight announcements. Was there ever any talk with the UFC being kind of stuck? Initially, they were in Florida. Then now they're in Vegas, and they got this Fight Island thing going on. Was there ever any talk or any chance that you thought you were going to get a call for the fights out there in Vegas during these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I threw my name in the hat. They said, Las Vegas fighters who are here, you have the right visa. Who wants to fight? And I said, yeah, 45 or 55, I'm in. Just let me know. And I didn't get the call, but I'm in no rush. I'm sure it'll happen soon. I've been patient for a long time. Every time somebody asked me about UFC, I would say, hold it, pump the brakes. We got some things to accomplish. You're not going to the UFC because you want a few amateur fights or a couple of pro fights. But I think I'm getting there. I think the level of competition I fought was very high. Some people get to 4-0, 5-0 fighting, tomato cans. That wasn't the case with me. LFA brings only quality fighters, and I've beat everybody they've put in front of me so far. So I intend to do the same thing July 10th, and maybe get the call afterwards. If not, that's cool too. I'll win a couple more and then get it.
Yeah, I think a lot of fighters rush to get to the UFC. So if you're able to get experience and continue winning, from my perspective as somebody who's just watched the sport, it seems like that helps with pay. It doesn't hurt to build up your record outside. before you jump in there. So you had talked about the Contenders Series before. I see that's getting started up again. So all that's got to be positive possibilities for you as long as you keep winning. The fight is in South Dakota. Is that correct?
Correct.
And have they told you anything about what to expect? Have you been tested yet or for coronavirus at all while you've been in Vegas? Or have they told you anything to expect as far as the flight goes, hotel, any kind of preparations for it?
All I know right now is I won't be able to have my wife with me and my agent. It's going to be really the lowest amount of people necessary. So me and two coaches, and no audience. So that's going to be weird, but I look forward to it.
You said this you're doing this fight at 145, and I meant to ask it earlier.
This one's at 55.
155. I'm sorry, but you normally fight at 145. Is Lugo a natural 155er, or did you both just kind of agree not to cut much weight?
No, he's a 55er. I had a couple guys that they got offered to fight 45ers at 50 or 55, just because the 4 weeks was a little too short for me to make 45, especially during quarantine. I got a little heavier than I usually do. And, I said, let's meet at 50. If you want, we can even check the scale the day of the fight and see that I'm not exceeding a certain amount if you're really worried about it. But they didn't take it, so I took the other fight.
Do you like the idea? You said you wanted to go back to 145. Are you just open to fighting at both? If you do well in this fight, is 155 something you would feel like you might want to stay at?
I might. I haven't made any decisions yet. Some people doubt that I can make 45 again, but I love proving them wrong. I made 45 8 times. It's never been easy, but I make it. I'm feeling like 55 is a good weight class for me. I'm pretty well sized for 55 as well. But as long as I can still make 45, I think I'll try and stay there. I think it's the most competitive division. It's the division in which I envision myself go through my career. But, I'm always down. I'll fight at 55, and if I don't have a fight at 45.
Your style-wise, it seems like a lot of the fighters in at the 145-pound division in the UFC would be good for you. So I think that you're 5'6" approximately, 5'6", 5'7", somewhere in that neighborhood.
5'9".
Oh, you're 5'9". Well, they're not
Yeah.
giving you any respect then. Tapology has you listed at 5'6".
Yeah. I had somebody do an article about me in Israel, and he said the small guy that beats up the big guys, something like that. And he wrote that I was 5'6", and I'm texting him yo, I'm not that small. Look at the video on their size.
Well, that makes a lot more sense then about being bigger for 145.
Yeah.
I asked if they had told you anything to expect. Do you have any concerns? I know you're prepared to fight, and that takes up a lot of your brain, I would imagine. But is there a lot of outside stuff? Is anything? I don't know how this is coronavirus, other than being locked down, has affected you. I don't know if you know people who have it or anything like that. Do you have any concerns? Are people around you concerned about anything, or are you just mentally prepared to go in there and have battle?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be weird having no crowd. But at the same time, I fought in front of 18,000 people, and I didn't see a single person. All I saw was my opponent. I don't remember a crowd cheering. I don't remember a crowd booing. All I remember is being focused on my opponent and listening to my corner and hearing them loud and clear. I think it's going to be the same thing. I think, in hindsight, it's going to be, it was the same thing. No biggie.
Do you think it'll be weird being able to hear your coaches during the fight? Or do you
I can always hear my coaches. It's like It's like I got super hearing to hear exactly what I need to hear. My coach always tells me I'm like his video game. He yells the numbers and I do what he says, like the strikes he says. We got our own codes, our own names, and yeah.
Do you think it'll be weird to hear the? I mean, having never done it, do you hear the other coaches and stuff in the fights, or are you just like tunnel visioned with your coach?
So I remember like hearing a couple times things that other corners said, and I caught on it, and they were like, "Cut the corner," and I'm like, "Okay, don't let him cut the corner," stuff like that. But I think this time it's gonna be way more clear. I think I have far better coaches, than most people. I'm very lucky. Really, I'm extremely lucky. I owe so much of my success to them, and it's only the beginning. And I hearing their coaches, yeah. If he hears my coaches, he won't know what they're telling me. Like we got our own language, and it's not gonna help him either. What I want to do, I'm gonna do, and that's it.
Are your gyms back open now? Are you training with other people now that have other fights lined up out of your gym?
Yeah, yeah.
Who
The professional fighters, we take the risk on ourselves. We train among each others.
is just as long, you just can't have too big of a group. They let you get away with it, or you just kind of sneak into the gym
Yeah.
with your own key.
No, we meet up the pro group, professional fighters. If I know I got, I'm in the cage with one partner. We're sparring today. We're going hard for 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and that's it. And same with drilling days. You catch a partner, and that's you and him.
You mentioned fighting in front of 18,000 fans. Was that for Tough Enough when they did the
Yeah.
free event at the Thomas and Mack Center a couple years back?
Yeah, the Pack the Mac. I did it twice.
They have a cool promotion there.
Very cool. And like I said about LFA bringing quality opponents, same with Tough Enough. I never fought anybody that didn't belong in there.
Do you think that was to your advantage when, as an amateur, being able to be hooked up with such a good organization where you didn't have to necessarily do 15 or 20 fights?
Absolutely, yeah. I think also I got into the game kind of late. 22, I started MMA, came from karate. I didn't know how to do an armbar. I didn't know what's a guard or a takedown. All I knew is what I saw in some UFC fights, and that wasn't a great technique. Me trying to replicate it. But like I said, I got lucky and I met real good coaches. It was tough to find like a fight at first. But after 2 years, 2.5 years of coming back and forth from Israel to Vegas, I got my first fight for Tough Enough. Then I got 2 more amateur fights in that year, and my last amateur fight was for Tough Enough as well. And yeah, Tough Enough is a really great organization. I bring like young kids from Israel to Vegas, help them train, and I tell them we're fighting for Tough Enough, and that's how it's been so far. They're really great.
That's great. They have a real good relationship with your gym?
Yeah. That I never met anybody who has a bad relationship with them. That would be very hard to do.
I've seen some of their videos online during this lockdown, and I guess one of the last questions I got is, what was it like being in Vegas? Did you ever head out to the Strip when it was completely empty? What was the feeling like being there compared to what you're used to?
Well, I didn't go to the Strip. I wanted to, but I always postpone things. Other than training, I'll postpone anything. I rather chill. In Israel, there's Yom Kippur, and there's no cars. Everybody's walking on the highway. Everybody's just chilling around their house, walking from town to town on the road. There's no cars, nothing. So it's not new to me to see like a place that looks like The Walking Dead. Like once a year, I have it already.
Yeah, that was the one thing I wish I had figured out time to drive out there. I would have been fascinated for as many times as I've been out there to just see it empty. Yeah, but seeing the video seemed really creepy and
yeah.
So So again, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Do you have it? You want to throw out your Facebook or your Instagram or Twitter or anything like that, so people can follow you?
Sure, it's Natan Levy, Natan_Levy for Instagram, and same thing, Natan Levy for Facebook and Twitter.
You're doing pretty well on your followers on Instagram, I noticed. I feel like when I first contacted you, you had a couple thousand followers, and now you're approaching 70,000. So it's nice that people are starting to recognize you. I think you're going to be somebody to be reckoned with in this sport. So I appreciate your time and your willingness to come on here when we've asked you. I'd love to talk to you again after your fight, just to figure out, to hear about how the experience went, as opposed to a normal fight situation, and hopefully you have an announcement of another huge fight in the future. But again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, Matthew. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fight, and hopefully I have some good news afterwards.
I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, but the show is brought to you by allaccessmma.com. Check their website out. You can follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow myself, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Ed's not here tonight, but follow him at Carbazol on Twitter and Carbeerzol on Instagram. Natan, best of luck. Travel safely. Kick some ass, man, and hope to have a conversation in towards the end of July about how successful everything was.
Sounds good. Thank you, man.
All right, good night.